Rain hit the broken road hard. Loud footsteps came closer and closer behind her. She was scared. She jumped into the back seat of a big fancy car that was waiting with its engine on. She closed her eyes tight. Suddenly the strong locks on the doors clicked shut. A soft voice that felt both smooth and very cold said, "You are safe now." The storm in Seattle on October 14th was very strong. But the man chasing Harper through the dark, wet streets of the city was even worse. Harper's lungs hurt with every fast breath. Her boots slipped on the wet stones of Occidental Avenue. Pain shot up into her sore ribs. Behind her, over the loud rain, she could still hear him. "Bradley, you cannot run forever, Harper." His voice cut through the wind. It was full of wild anger. That same anger had made him break their apartment window only 20 minutes before. "I have Higgins on patrol tonight. The police will not help you. They work for me." This was a real-life nightmare. Bradley was not just a mean and controlling ex-boyfriend. He had powerful friends. He played cards with local judges. He drank with bad police officers like Officer Higgins. He ran secret businesses that looked like normal real estate companies. To the outside world, Bradley was a charming businessman. Behind closed doors, he was a monster. Blood ran down the side of Harper's head, from the place where his heavy ring had hit her during his first attack. The metal smell of blood mixed with the wet smell of the rain. She ran into a narrow alley near Yesler Way. Her eyes were blurry from fear and running. She pulled on the door of an old delivery van. It was locked. She tried to climb a tall fence with chains, but she was too weak and hurt. Then she saw it. Sitting quiet in the darkest part of the alley was a car that did not belong in this rough place. It was a smooth black Maybach. The windows were dark. The engine made almost no sound, just a soft vibration. Harper grabbed the back door handle. To her big surprise, the door opened with a heavy, expensive click. She did not wait. She threw herself onto the soft floor of the back seat and pulled the door closed, just as lightning lit up the end of the alley. She pressed her hand over her mouth so her loud breathing would not be heard. Outside, Bradley's heavy boots splashed in the puddles. He walked slowly now, like a hunter who enjoyed the chase. "I know you are down here," Bradley said, in a soft, scary voice. His shadow fell across the wet window of the Maybach. He stopped right next to the car. Harper's heart beat so hard against her ribs, she was sure he would hear it. The smell of rain, cheap whiskey, and Bradley's strong cologne came in through the car vents. He tapped his knuckles on the strong glass. Suddenly a heavy electronic sound filled the car. The locks had closed by themselves. Bradley cursed, jumped back in surprise, kicked a trash can, and then turned and walked fast back toward the main street. Harper let out a shaky breath. Her whole body was shaking. Only then did she notice the front seat was not empty. "He is gone," a voice said from the front of the car. Harper jumped and pushed herself back against the leather seats. The voice was not like any human voice she had ever heard. It was calm, deep, and full of quiet power. Slowly the driver turned his head. The soft orange light from the dashboard showed his face. And for a second, Harper forgot to breathe. He was very handsome, with high cheekbones and skin as pale as white stone. His hair was pure black and combed back perfectly. But it was his eyes that held her still. They were bright silver and shone like mirrors in the dark. "Who are you?" Harper asked, pulling her knees up to her chest. "Please just let me out when it is safe. I do not want any trouble." "You are bleeding," the man said, ignoring her question. His eyes looked at the cut on her head. For a tiny moment, something dark and wild flashed in those silver eyes. The air inside the car seemed to grow colder. Harper shivered. He reached into the pocket of his fine dark suit and held out a black silk handkerchief over the middle of the car. The letters DC were sewn in silver thread in the corner. "Press this to your head," he said in a gentle but firm voice, "and do not ask me to open these doors. If you go back into that rain, the man hunting you will finish what he started. In here, you are safe now. Why are you helping me? Harper asked, her voice breaking as she took the silk cloth. His fingers touched hers. They were as cold as ice. Because, the man said, turning back to the steering wheel, as the Maybach moved smoothly forward onto the wet streets. Bradley has taken enough from this city. I will not allow him to take you. Harper's eyes grew wide. He knew Bradley. Before she could ask more questions, the heavy weight of the night's fear, the blood she had lost, and the strange feeling of safety from this stranger all came down on her at once. The soft sound of the engine and the smell of cedar and cold winter air from the driver pulled her into a deep sleep. She fell against the leather seat, unconscious. Harper woke up to the sound of a big fire crackling in a fireplace. She sat up fast with a gasp. This was not the damp, moldy apartment she had shared with Bradley. She was in a huge bedroom that looked like it came from an old European castle. Thick velvet curtains hung by tall windows that went from floor to ceiling. The bed she lay on was very large and covered in dark silk sheets. "Easy, Miss Harper," a calm voice said. "Try not to make your heart beat too fast." Harper turned her head. A man in a clean white coat stood near a wooden table, packing medical things into a leather bag. He had kind eyes with little wrinkles and gray hair. "Where am I?" she asked, swinging her legs over the side of the bed. She saw she was no longer in her wet, torn clothes. She now wore a thick, soft cashmere sweater that was too big for her. The cut on her head had been carefully stitched and bandaged. "You are at the Vanguard estate," the doctor said softly. "I am Dr. Kensington. Mr. Castile brought you here late last night. You had a small head injury, cracked ribs, and you were very tired." "Mr. Castile," Harper repeated. The memory of the silver-eyed man in the Maybach came back. Dominic Castile. The name sounded a little familiar, spoken in quiet, scared voices by rich people in the city, though she could not remember exactly why. "I need to leave. Bradley will use the police to find my phone. He knows people like Judge Matheson. He will find me." Dr. Kensington gave a small, almost sad smile. "Your phone was destroyed by Mr. Castile, and trust me, child, no police officer, judge, or normal man can get past the walls of this estate. You are completely safe from Bradley." Before Harper could ask what he meant by normal man, the heavy wooden door opened. Dominic Castile walked into the room. If he had looked strong in the dark car, he looked even more powerful in the warm firelight. He moved with smooth, quiet grace that no normal person had. He wore a fitted black shirt with the top buttons open, and his silver eyes locked onto her right away. "Doctor," Dominic said softly, still looking at Harper, "leave us." Dr. Kensington bowed his head in a real bow of respect and hurried out, closing the door. Dominic walked to the foot of the bed. The air in the room felt heavy, full of a strange energy. Harper pulled the blankets up to her chin. "How do you know Bradley?" Harper asked, trying to be brave instead of scared. Dominic's lips moved in a tiny, almost smile. "Bradley is a very foolish man who works in the dark, and thinks he is the biggest monster in the shadows. He is not. He is only a small pest." "He is dangerous," Harper insisted, her voice shaking. "He runs illegal gambling groups. He hurts people. He sells people." "He is a human trafficker," Dominic finished for her, his voice growing deeper and more serious. "But he does not sell women to other men, Harper. He sells them to my kind." Harper froze. Dominic stepped closer into the light of the fire. As he did, the flames seemed to grow smaller, as if they were afraid of him. "Let me ask you something, Harper. Have you never wondered why your bruises heal so fast? Why you have a rare blood type that hospitals cannot easily match? Or why Bradley kept you alone, gave you iron pills, stopped you from drinking alcohol or coffee, and treated you less like a girlfriend and more like a prize?" A sick feeling rose in Harper's throat. The iron pills, the strict diets, the way Bradley sometimes brought strange, pale men to their apartment. Men who stared at her neck and wrists with hungry, empty eyes, while Bradley counted thick piles of cash in the kitchen. "Who are you?" she whispered, moving back. As he opened his mouth to speak, the firelight showed the clear, scary shape of long, pointed teeth against his lower lip. "I am the Vampire King of the Pacific Northwest," Dominic said, his voice a deep, almost hypnotic sound that made Harper's pulse race in her throat. "For hundreds of years, my group has kept order, making sure we survive by living quietly among humans. But recently a bad group has broken our peace. They buy rare, strong people to drink from, breaking our important rules. Bradley is their main supplier." Harper felt the room spin. Vampires, kings, blood vessels. It sounded crazy. Yet looking at the timeless, frightening beauty of the man in front of her, her feelings told her every word was true. "And me?" she managed to say. "Why me?" "Because, Harper." Dominic reached out, his ice-cold fingers gently pushing a loose piece of hair behind her ear. The touch sent a strong shiver down her back, a mix of fear and a strange pull she could not explain. "Your family blood has an old, sleeping power. To regular humans it means nothing. To a vampire, one drop of your blood is like drinking pure strength. Bradley did not want to marry you. He was selling you to the highest bidder in the bad group. The sale was supposed to happen tonight." Tears filled Harper's eyes as the terrible truth broke her old world. The man she had tried to love, the man she had feared, was only a seller, getting her ready for others to use. "Then why did you not let them have me?" she asked, a tear falling down her cheek. "Why put yourself in the middle of this?" Dominic's eyes grew darker, the silver turning into a deep storm. His thumb caught her tear and wiped it away with surprising gentleness. "Because to beat the bad group, I need the best bait," he said, his honesty cold and clear. "And because, since the moment you bled in my car, my instincts have been screaming at me to keep you for myself." He stepped back, putting space between them again, though the heavy feeling in the air stayed. "You will stay in this estate, Harper," Dominic said, turning toward the door. "You will have every comfort. You will not be hurt by me or my people. But understand this clearly. You are not a guest. You are my most valuable piece, in a war that you are only starting to understand." The heavy wooden door clicked shut behind him. The lock slid into place with a sound that felt too familiar. Harper was safe from Bradley, but as she looked out the window into the misty, thick forests of the Cascade Mountains, she realized she had only traded one monster for a much older one. For 3 weeks the Vanguard Estate was Harper's beautiful prison. Deep in the foggy forests of the Cascade Mountains, the big Gothic mansion was a strong fortress of isolation and scary luxury. Outside, the endless Pacific Northwest rain hit the heavy glass windows. Inside, the air was always warm, smelling of cedarwood, old books, and a faint electric feeling she now knew was vampire magic. Harper could walk the long, echoing halls, but she was never really alone. A big, quiet guard named Sullivan followed her like a shadow. His eyes were an unnatural pale gold. Penelope, a maid who moved with the same smooth grace as Dominic, brought her meals of rich, iron-heavy meats and dark green vegetables. Harper ate them without complaint, knowing she was being made stronger, prepared, and watched. She saw Dominic Castile only in passing. He was like a ghost in his own home, often alone in his large library or leaving the estate in the middle of the night. When they did meet, his silver eyes would follow her with a burning, hungry look that made her breath catch. But he always kept his distance. It was as if he was fighting a silent battle every time she entered the room. That distance broke on a stormy Tuesday evening. Harper could not sleep. She left her room and walked to the east wing. As she passed the heavy oak doors of the grand study, she heard voices. Not the soft, polite voices of the estate staff, but sharp, angry arguments. You cannot seriously expect the local government to look the other way, Dominic, a loud voice said. Harper knew it at once from the news. It was Mayor Harrison. The realization sent a chill down her spine. The mayor of Seattle was here, talking with a vampire. I expect you to keep the borders safe, Mayor, Dominic's voice answered, cold and calm, cutting through the tension. Your police force, especially bad ones like Officer Higgins, have broken the agreement. The bad group led by Nathaniel is gathering in the industrial area. They are using human trafficking as a cover to collect rare bloodlines. And Bradley? Another voice asked, shaking a little. It was Senator Caldwell. He was supposed to be a small-time seller. He was our informant. Bradley is no longer your problem, Dominic said coldly. He went too far. He put a prime vessel on the open market and put a target on my city. I will deal with Nathaniel and his group. I only need you to stop all emergency flights from Boeing Field tomorrow night and keep the police away from the Overtake Symphony Center. The party will go on as planned. A party? Mayor Harrison said in surprise. You are setting a trap in a public place. It is the only way to bring Nathaniel into the open, Dominic said. He is proud, and he wants what I have. Harper gasped softly and stepped back. Her heel caught on the edge of a thick rug and made a small scraping sound. In less than a second, the heavy doors flew open. The politicians inside gasped as Dominic appeared in the doorway, looking down at Harper. His face was full of anger. His jaw was tight enough to break bone. Meeting over, Dominic ordered, without looking back at the scared politicians. He stepped into the hallway and shut the doors behind him, leaving him and Harper alone in the dim corridor. Spying is a dangerous habit for a human in a house full of hunters, he said quietly, stepping toward her. He was so close she could feel the unnatural cold coming from his chest, while a strange heat built in her own body. You are using me as bait tomorrow night, Harper said, her voice shaking, though she refused to look away. At the Overtake Symphony Center. You are showing me off in front of this Nathaniel person. I am, Dominic admitted, his silver eyes flashing with both anger and clear hunger. He reached up, his cool fingers wrapping gently around her jaw and tilting her head back. Nathaniel knows I took you. He knows what is in your blood. He will not be able to stop himself from crashing the party to take you. And what if he succeeds? She whispered, a tear falling. What if Bradley finds me in the chaos? Dominic's thumb wiped the tear away, his touch suddenly very gentle. Bradley is a ghost now, and Nathaniel is a fool. I will not let them touch you, Harper. You are under my protection. You are... He stopped, swallowing hard, as his eyes dropped to the fast pulse beating in her throat. His fangs grew a little longer, a reaction he seemed to fight hard to control. I am what, Dominic? She asked, her fear suddenly mixed with a dangerous, strong attraction. Mine, he growled, the word coming out of him like a force. He closed the last bit of space and pressed his lips to hers. The kiss was hard, desperate, and cold, tasting of winter and old power. Harper gasped into his mouth, her hands rising to hold the front of his jacket. For one terrifying and beautiful moment, the monster and the man became one, and Harper realized she was no longer a prisoner trying to escape. She was standing on the battlefield beside her king. When he finally pulled away, his chest moved hard, and his fangs were gone again. Tomorrow night, you stay by my side. If anything goes wrong, you run to Sullivan. Do you understand? Harper nodded, out of breath. The war was here, and she was the prize. The Overtake Symphony Center was a beautiful mix of modern glass and old brick, shining under the Seattle skyline. That night it was full of the city's rich and important people who had no idea of the supernatural war boiling under their fine suits and silk dresses. Harper stood at the top of the grand staircase, feeling like both a goddess and a sacrifice. Penelope had dressed her in a stunning, long red gown that hugged her body and flowed behind her like a river of blood. Around her neck rested a heavy platinum collar covered in diamonds. It was a gift from Dominic, and also a protective charm. Dominic stood beside her, looking powerful in a perfect black tuxedo. His silver eyes scanned the crowded ballroom below, watching every movement and every shadow. "Breathe," Dominic said quietly, offering his arm. "They will smell your fear before they see you." "I am not afraid," Harper lied, sliding her gloved hand into the curve of his arm. They walked down the stairs, and immediately drew every eye in the room. Whispers followed them, like dry leaves in the wind. To the humans, Dominic Castile was a mysterious, untouchable billionaire. To the hidden monsters in the crowd, he was their absolute ruler, and he was walking with a weapon of great power on his arm. For 2 hours they moved among the guests. Harper drank champagne that tasted like ash and forced a fake smile as she shook hands with senators and tech leaders. But when the clock struck midnight, the orchestra suddenly stopped playing. The heavy glass doors of the lobby shattered inward. Screams filled the air as the freezing Seattle wind rushed into the ballroom, bringing with it a dozen figures in dark, torn clothes. They moved with terrifying speed, their eyes completely black. The bad group had arrived. In the center of the chaos walked Nathaniel. He was tall, thin, and full of pure evil. But it was not Nathaniel who made Harper's blood turn to ice. It was the man walking beside him, Bradley. He was changed. His skin was deathly pale. His eyes were wild and bloodshot, glowing with an unnatural red light. Fresh blood was smeared on his jaw. Nathaniel had not only used Bradley as a seller, he had turned him into an immortal soldier. "Dominic." Nathaniel's voice rang through the screaming crowd, clear over the panic. "You have something that belongs on the free market. Hand over the girl, and we will let your pet politicians live." Dominic did not move. He pushed Harper firmly behind him. Suddenly, the elegant guests standing closest to them, people Harper had thought were just rich socialites, dropped their champagne glasses. Their eyes flared silver and gold. They were Dominic's hidden guards. "You have broken into my territory, Nathaniel," Dominic's voice boomed, full of old authority. "Your existence ends tonight." The ballroom exploded into chaos. Vampires fought at speeds the human eye could barely follow. Tables were smashed into pieces. The scared human guests ran toward the fire exits, guided by Dominic's loyal people. "Harper!" Bradley's voice cut through the noise. He jumped across the room, covering 20 feet in one leap. He crashed into Sullivan, who had stepped in to stop him, and threw the big guard through a grand piano with a loud crash. Bradley turned to Harper with a terrible grin that showed long, sharp fangs. "You thought you could hide from me in that car? Look at me now, Harper. I am a god." He lunged at her. Harper screamed and threw her arms up, but before Bradley could reach her, a blur of black tuxedo hit him. Dominic slammed into Bradley with the force of a speeding train. The two men crashed through a support pillar, bringing down a shower of plaster and dust. Bradley fought with the wild, unpredictable rage of a new vampire, clawing and snapping. But Dominic was a king who had lived for centuries. With one strong, smooth motion, Dominic twisted Bradley's arm behind his back and snapped the bone with a sickening crack. Bradley howled and thrashed. His free hand grabbed a sharp piece of the broken pillar and swung it backward in desperation. The sharp debris cut through the air and grazed Harper's bare shoulder. A sharp gasp left her lips as a thin, bright red line appeared on her skin. One drop of blood welled up and slid down her collarbone. The effect was instant and total. The entire ballroom froze. Every vampire, both the bad ones and the loyal ones, snapped their heads toward Harper. The smell of her blood was unlike anything they had ever known. It was powerful, overwhelming, full of old strength and pure pleasure. Even the wounded ones groaned in sudden, desperate hunger. Nathaniel let out a deep roar, left his fight with two guards, and ran straight at her. His eyes locked on her bleeding shoulder. Dominic's reaction was terrifying. A deep, earth-shaking snarl tore from his chest. He did not just kill Bradley, he destroyed him. With one brutal twist, he tore Bradley's head from his shoulders, ending her abuser's unnatural life in a second. Dropping the remains, Dominic vanished from where he stood, and reappeared right in front of Harper just as Nathaniel leaped. Dominic caught Nathaniel in mid-air by the throat. The force carried them backward, but Dominic planted his feet and drove Nathaniel hard into the marble floor. Without any words or hesitation, Dominic drove his fist straight into Nathaniel's chest and pulled out the rogue leader's heart. The remaining bad vampires, seeing their leader destroyed and the king's full anger unleashed, turned and fled into the night. Silence fell over the ruined ballroom, broken only by the sparking of cut electrical wires. Dominic stood over the dust that had been Nathaniel, his chest rising and falling hard, his hands covered in ash. He slowly turned toward Harper. His silver eyes were completely black now, overcome by the maddening scent of her blood. He walked toward her, every hunting instinct screaming at him to take what was his and drink the power she offered. Harper did not run. She stood tall among the wreckage, shaking, watching the monster come closer. Dominic stopped inches from her. He reached out, his bloody hands hovering over her shoulders. He leaned in, burying his face in the curve of her neck, his nose right over the bleeding cut. Harper felt the brush of his fangs against her skin. She closed her eyes, ready for whatever came next. But instead of a bite, she felt the impossibly soft, freezing touch of his lips. He kissed the wound. His saliva sealed the cut at once and took away the powerful scent. He pulled back, his eyes slowly returning to their clear, bright silver. The monster had gone. The man remained. "I told you," Dominic whispered, his voice thick with feeling as he pulled her into a tight, protective hug. "You are safe now, and you will be safe forever. Not as my asset, Harper, but as my queen." Harper buried her face in his chest. The last pieces of her old, terrified life burned away in the ashes of the ruined symphony hall. The hunt was over. She was exactly where she belonged. From surviving a nightmare of abuse to standing beside the vampire king of Seattle, Harper's journey is a dark story of finding strength and a new beginning. Dominic showed that his care for her was stronger than his hunger. But in the world of the supernatural, peace never lasts forever. This story also teaches an important lesson. No one should ever have to live in fear of someone who hurts them or tries to control them. In real life, if someone is treating you badly, keeping you isolated, or making you feel unsafe, it is right and brave to ask for help. Trusted friends, family, teachers, or hotlines can support you. You are never alone, and you deserve to be safe and free. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it, and subscribe so you don't miss my next video.